Okay, we're out of executive session. It is 4:15 p.m. and no actions were taken in executive session. So, moving on to section 7, calls for decision and key discussions. The first item on here is corrective action plans for 2023 and 2024. So, for those of you who were in the Friday meeting, we covered this a little bit, but the basics are our 2023 audit had one finding that requires a corrective action plan that dealt with how we were recognizing revenue from our grant. And to make a long story very short, we were not doing it properly under uniform guidance. We were recognizing revenue when the money came in and not when we had incurred the expenses in relation to that income, which is not how it works for reimbursement-based grants. And of course, just to make matters further complicated, the next two grants we look to receive do work the way that we had been doing it and are fixed amount sub-awards. So we have all sorts of fun complexity in the accounting and finance side of Maple Broadband. So we had that finding in 2023. Anytime you have a finding in your audit, you need to submit a corrective action plan through the Federal Clearinghouse, and the state of Vermont also as well. Same thing, because basically the auditor saying you weren't doing you were doing things in a manner which was materially incorrect. We have fixed it as part of the audit, but you need to have a plan to make sure that you don't make the same mistake again. Now, we had the exact same finding in 2024 because we went straight from 2023 into 2024. And actually, I thought that we'd fixed it, but I think that we somehow must have sent an earlier trial balance where the error was still there. So anyway, we know what that one is. And so I've been through the corrective action plan for 2023 and the first one for 24 are exactly word for word the same because it's the same plan. And basically, well, you guys will have read it except for Zapata, who maybe didn't get it. But basically what it says is that I'm going to be doing an audit now of how things are, and any future invoices we're going to put into deferred revenue. And then at the end of every quarter, we're going to figure out the amount of revenue we should recognize. We're going to journal it out. It's all going to have multiple eyes on it. So I drafted that. Darlene signed off on it. Lynn signed off on it. Bonnie, our auditor, signed off on it. Quite comfortable with that one. So let's actually just talk about that one because that's 2023, and then we can cover 2024's as the next subject. So, and just to be really clear, we're not just talking about this for the sake of talking about it. We need to actually file these things, and so we don't really have a policy on corrective action plans, and so I think procedurally it would be best if you guys made a motion to pass these things as presented or potentially as modified in this meeting. And then with that, I'll give Bonnie the good word and we'll file them in all the right places. Nancy, you're muted.
I move that we approve the 2023 corrective action plan as presented.
Okay, second from Shannon. Is there any discussion?
So my only question is the plan to contract with a consulting firm with a CPA to provide ongoing review of procedures. How often are we talking about someone doing an ongoing review, and do we have a sense of where we're going to find said certified CPAs or find the CPAs in a consulting firm that's not a million miles away?
So the first thing I should say is this was Lynn's suggestion. Yeah. This was Lynn's suggestion to add this because I don't think it's actually strictly necessary in the corrective action plan. So we could also strip it out and just say we're going to do this, and then we can choose to do this. I mean, I'm ambivalent as to that point. I don't mind having it in there, but I don't think it's actually a critical part of the corrective action plan. It's more of like we're just going to, contract someone to help make sure we have best practices going forward. And our thinking on this is that when we did our RFP for the BEAD financial policies and procedures review to help us put together the best practices there, we had exactly one respondent, which is the firm that we hoped would respond, which is Barry Dunn, which is a very big New England-based firm that's generally known to be the best telecom accounting firm in the area. And so they were the sole bidder, and they did a great job, and they're wonderful. And I think for the purposes of what we need, I don't even know that we need to go to procurement here. I could simply ask them for, I don't think it'd be more than maybe a couple $1,000s to just, review everything and tell us what we might be missing and what the gotchas are. And yeah.
No, that makes sense. I'd forgotten about the Barry Dunn connection. So we're not starting from scratch and going through blah, 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 blah. No. Good.
Yeah, it's not going to exceed 30,000 I hope if they give me a proposal that exceeds $30,000, that I'll tell them to revise it. Otherwise, we have to go to RFP.
So based on what Sai just said, I'm assuming it's referencing point 5 in the CAP 2023 document. And
Yep.
if you're saying that that is not a requirement, could we just simply change the word out, instead of the district plans to contract, the district may contract?
Sure.
And that provides us with the flexibility.
Sure.
Agreed.
Consider it done. I'm making the same change in 24 as well. Okay. All right. Any further discussion on the motion on the floor? Okay. All in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
That's an amendment. That's an amended motion.
Yes, as amended. Yes, with the friendly amendment. Okay. Thank you. That's unanimous. Okay, so 24 is the same as 23 for the first one. And then the second part dealt with one was an error where we coded an invoice that was meant to go to construction to pre-construction. So that was an error where it happened. And basically, we didn't, when we review the monthly ledgers, we only look at the expense side. We don't look at the income side because it's not part of what we're reporting. So basically, the correction here is when I do the monthly stuff, I'm now going to look at the income side as well. And easy enough. The second one is that if you guys will recall, at the end of 2024, we were overdrawn in our construction grants. We'd spent more money than the money we actually had received. And so we should have put that in as revenue, as a grant receivable, because we knew that the amount of the grant is greater, but we'd overdrawn it. And so on our books, we weren't showing the liability properly. So the second part of that is simply just to check if we happen to be overdrawn on any grants on a cash basis at the end of the quarter, we will put that in. And then when we get paid, we'll reverse it. So this is all really quite straightforward, but it's things that we weren't doing that we now are aware of and will start to do.
So where practicality doesn't line up with all the right standards set forth, yes. But I think these all make perfectly good sense.
Thank
I
you.
move that we accept the 2024 correction action plan as amended.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any more discussion? Okay. All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Okay.
Aye.
And that's unanimous. Thank you, guys. Okay. So next up is JSI. Steve, do you want to talk about this?
Well, sure. I'm just going to share. Ellie and I have been pushing to get a commitment from JSI to do the work that we want to get done as part of our BEAD award. And it was a little bit of pulling teeth, but we finally, or midday today, received it's a 7-page document that led up to what they're going to do and how good they are and everything like that. But the part of it that I think is a consequence from our perspective is it's going to take a long time. We don't know how long it's going to take for JSI to do the design work that they need to do so that we can build our network in Ripton and Middlebury, because there's a lot of other users out there in the marketplace that are probably looking for the same services. So there's a certain urgency to try to get this addressed. We did, you may recall, put out an RFP to design firms, and as a result of that RFP, and part of that was to do BEAD design work, and so they were awarded that work, and this is a representation of what they're going to be charging us for. Ellie, have you done more than looked at it? I assume you didn't do any more than I did. We've only had it for a couple hours.
We've only had it for a couple hours. I did check it against their original RFP response, and the charge per mile is significantly higher, and which of course raises a flag of should it go out to bid again. And my recommendation is that we need to double check our procurement process and make sure that we're not out of bounds with either that or with the requirements of uniform guidance. But I think what Steve said earlier was quite true, that there is a crunch right now, and JSI did do the first part, and switching horses midstream is not desirable, but there is a big jump in their in their per mile cost. So I think, go ahead, Zapata.
I'm just wondering if in the RFP and their response, did they indicate anything about a contingency or their bid being, I'll say, valid for however many days, since we have so many changing factors in the market that I know that with electronics, that there's this like built-in percentage of possible increase.
Yeah, I'm sure it would have done. I mean, this old procurement is a year old, so we're a little bit out over our skis anyway, which just makes me want to go and just double check to make sure we're not doing anything which is disallowed under uniform guidance, especially because this is BEAD money, so that could be a serious problem. But the original rate was $800 a mile, and the new rate is, so it's a big difference, but there's also fewer miles than what they'd originally bid on. So I don't know why they had a higher, I don't know, like some of the others even had, like we gave them all the same information and they came back and bid differently. But I think regardless, I think the time is of the essence. And so what we might request is that the executive committee authorize me and Steve to negotiate with them, but that we wouldn't sign anything unless we've double checked to make sure that we are in line with uniform guidance. So we won't do anything which would put our ability to charge this to the BEAD grant at risk. But if possible, we'll contract with JSI. If not possible, we'll get another RFP out as quickly as possible and encourage them please to bid on it so that we can move this forward with all due speed.
And you're going to ask them if they made a mistake in the mileage quote.
Well, the mileage now is per the high level design. It's just when we did the original, they probably had different assumptions or didn't read things. I was looking at it earlier because we had. So
you don't think it was a mistake?
I don't think their current pricing is a mistake, but they might have been. I mean, no, because they knew that there isn't an RFP this time, so they may not have had as sharp a pencil. So, but the other thing, by the way, is that this total amount is well within the amount that I'd budgeted for the BEAD application. So no matter what, we're okay. My worries here are more procedural and federal grant compliance than, that this is too much money as such.
Yeah. So, and so to be clear, first of all, we're going to lose Cy in 3 minutes. So we need to kind of sort this. And I think the good news is, regardless of whether or not there's some inaccuracies, we haven't had time, neither of us has had time to read the entirety of their proposal, and Ellie's going to go back and look at the former documents. We're not going to do anything until she and I are satisfied, but I think for the purposes of moving forward, I move that we engage JSI per their proposal for a total amount of $144,200 or approve that, and then subject to the diligence that mostly Ellie needs to do. Does that proposal make sense to you?
I would say and negotiation.
Yeah, and negotiation, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I would second that.
Okay. Discussion? Okay. All in favor of the proposal as amended, raise your hand or say aye. Yay. Excellent. Thanks all. And Ellie, I do want to talk to you about the other two items, construction contracts, documentation, Calyx engineering. We may not want to do the Calyx engineering. I think we just need to talk it through. So.
Yep. Agreed. Okay. Totally agree. Okay. So thank you guys for that authorization. We will do the necessary to move that forward. Bye,
I'm running away, all.
Thanks, Ty.
Hey, up.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda then is a proposed subsidy program. So I sent you guys a document. Zapata, I'm sorry you didn't see it, but basically the idea here is that we have been continuing without a formal policy the $30 a month that the federal government had been providing under the Affordable Connectivity Program, and we've had for 2 years now in our budget. We've had subsidies both for we've had budgetary amounts both for monthly subsidies and then for installations for low-income households, but we've never had a policy around it. We've never had a way to actually get those households verified. So the long drop program is kind of the kick in the pants to say, okay, the program is requiring us to give the top priority to low income households, and then we have this lower income for middle class affordability. But so I thought this was as good a time as any to be able to launch those two things in tandem, so we don't wind up with the awkward situation of paying for a drop to someone's house and then having them not be able to afford the service. So I've distributed the proposed policy, and I don't know how you guys would like to proceed.
Yeah, I think it's really well written. I think there's only one word in there that I'd love to see you change, and then I would be prepared to approve it personally. The word headaches is idiomatic and really shouldn't be used. I think you could
Did I say that?
something like challenges or something like that might be a better fit, but rewrite it any way you want. Just get the idiom out of there.
Headaches. There we go. Okay. Challenges.
Challenges, right.
Good call, Steve. Thank you.
Do you want
So that's, yeah, that with now as amended, I move we approve.
I second.
Okay.
Discussion?
Any discussion?
No, other than the fact that because we've talked about this in executive committee and going through that process of the long drop, I feel pretty comfortable with formalizing it in this way.
Great.
Okay. That's great. All right. So all in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Okay. Thank you. Now, the next thing, I suppose, since we're talking about it, is we've obviously discussed this conceptually here, but it probably wouldn't hurt if you guys would authorize me to do the necessary to formalize a contractual agreement with CVOEO to provide or to do these validations. So again, I've put a budgetary amount into the grant application to cover that service for the first year. I'm not sure. I suspect that's, we'll do it as a fixed fee for the first year, and then we'll reassess things from there. But we need some sort of a legal agreement that covers what they're doing and what we're paying them for and how it all works. I'm going to crib as much as I can from any KCV. But yeah, we need to formalize that, and that's really the next step.
What are you thinking about in terms of fixed fee?
Well, I put $5,000 into the application for them for the first year, and that should cover their system setup, and then
Okay.
I feel like that's a fair amount, and I did discuss that with them ahead of time.
And I don't think we need to vote on this, Ellie, but I'm all in favor of you proceeding.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we discussed it, and I wasn't going out and signing an agreement without your knowledge and consent.
Yeah.
Okie dokie, great. Okay, so moving on to section 8, updates, Old Town Road. Steve's got some pretty pictures for us.
Yay! All right.
The diameter of that saw alone was mind-blowing.
Yeah,
Just
it's pretty scary,
mind-blowing.
isn't it? Okay.
Well, I drove by it every day and I saw all of the big trucks and the parking lot full on the side of the road, and it was like, okay, things are happening.
Makes you
So-
a hero in town, I bet, Zapata.
Yeah.
So that's the machine. It's kind of counterintuitive. When it moves forward, it goes to the left side of the screen there. So basically, all the cables that are going to be buried are hanging out on the left side of the picture. They drape over the top of the machine. They go on to the very front of the machine. You can see the cables there. And as this thing goes down into the ground and opens the trench, and as they move forward, as it moves forward, it drops the cable into the trench. So it's really pretty nifty.
How deep, Steve? How deep does it bury them?
I'm sorry?
How deep does it bury them?
It's about 4 feet down.
Okay.
All right, hold on. Okay, let's just look at the pretty pictures first. So I was out there. I watched them do all the work that they needed to do, but this was I took a couple movies here, very short movies. You can see the trenching machine down there, and these are all the cables that are going to be buried. Actually, these three are Green Mountain Power cables, and then this is everybody else's, including Maple Broadband's. So they're all laid out way down. If you turned around and walk in the other direction, you'd see those same cables. They're actually conduits all the way down. So what's happening right now is that this is the work that's being done by Green Mountain Power. They're paying for it, and they're also paying for the trencher, and they're also providing Green Mountain Power personnel to make sure that the cables go where they need to go and everything like that. And all the other conduits, including ours, First Light's conduit, which I think is a single or maybe two conduits, and then 2 or 3 conduits that CCI came in at the last minute to specify. Those are all being wrangled by Eustis, which is the firm that we engaged. And due to both job owning and a number of other things, we have to place a pull box that helps us. We can't go 2 miles in a single tube. We need to actually break off the tube every 800 feet right now to be able to pull the cable through when the time comes. We're not doing cable now. All we're doing is getting that pathway in. And so every 800 feet, we're going to be putting in boxes here and doing what needs to be done. And all the work here, which is all being the physical work, the labor associated with this is all being done by Eustis. You kind of get a sense of the machine occasionally runs into an obstacle, and you can kind of tell it kind of gets challenged a little bit. Not much to see there. Just a minute
Still,
here.
it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, it's quite something to see. All right, that's not it. Hold on, get my act together here. OTR. All right, so since I'm struggling with presenting this to you, I'm going to first show you where we are. Hello, wake up. All right, so this is Old Town Road. You can see 125 here. You can see Ripton up here. This is Old Town Road. They're going to do both ends. There's a huge chasm here that it's uncrossable. There's no bridge or anything like that. It's about 50 feet wide and about 25 feet deep. And so the trenching started here a week ago today, and the trenching machine made it all the way up to here and started running into all kinds of challenges with large boulders and stuff like that. And so this was after one full day of trenching, which they didn't do any trenching on Monday. They all just did setup, and National Forest Service or USDA actually had to inspect all the gear that was going to be up here to ensure that it didn't have any dirt or extraneous stuff on them, because they didn't want to transport any nasties that came from someplace else into the Green Mountain National Forest. So they did a great job about that. And then this mark here is where they were at the end of the day on Friday. So this is about how far they've gotten done in 1 week. And by general estimates, I'm going to assume that it's going to take them about a week to get down to here, where they stop, and then they're going to have to run down to the east end of the location. This part of Old Town Road is maintained by Ripton up to about here. That's my swag on about where the gate is, that the Old Town Road, where we need to do the work. And so we're going to be trenching from here down to here, and that's about the same distance. It's about high level 0.6 miles from here to here, 0.6 miles from here to here, and about 0.6 miles from here to here. So we're going to assume the trenching is all done in about 2 weeks. And at that point, they will have not done any of the pull box placements that are going to be needed. So I'm estimating it's going to take them a week to do all that work, and there will be nothing in their way. Right now, all the ECE is doing is they are trying to stay out of the way of the trenching machine. Keep feeding the trenching machine is kind of the big goal.
Steve, how do they
So-
cross the chasm? Do they go aerial to cross the
They're-
chasm?
Exactly, they're going
Yeah.
aerial.
Okay.
Okay.
And so this is the last thing. So we'll look at it for a second. So this is a close-up of the same thing. So I think what will be most helpful to you, you can kind of see the trench down here and where it's leaving behind what they're doing. And that's the starting point for the work they're doing. You can see that's the last pole on the east side of the west section of this. And there's extra conduit here, and we're going to be putting pull boxes here. And then somewhere upstream, we're going to be more and more pull boxes. Suggesting, since this is only a 24-second clip, kind of focus your attention on this tread. And what you'll see is that sometimes it's moving really, really slow, and other times it's not moving at all. And because of the nature of this trenching machine, it'll cut through whatever it needs to cut through. So if there's a big rock there, it'll cut through it. So when you can tell when it stops, it's working on grinding away a rock that's there. That kind of helps you understand. And the other thing that will help you understand is the pace. So we were paying, excuse me, we were paying, or we signed up to engage Eustis for about a week's worth of work. And I was in a panic a little bit because it was probably not going to, it was going to take longer than that. So I had a conversation with Eustis about what happens if that week goes by. So I did send a follow-up email to the person who's running the show down there and said, what are we going to do? What happens? And I think at some point I had approached the executive committee and said, folks, we're going to run over the original estimate that you approved, which is about $40,000. And I asked for your authorization to bump it up to $60,000 if and when it became necessary, and you approved that. So after doing the review, and knowing what I knew after a week, and it wasn't nearly done, and there was going to take a few more weeks to do it, I asked Eustis what's going to be involved, and they simply said that it's going to take a lot more than is going to be expected. Please let us know how to proceed. So I did a little bit of calculations and kind of came to the conclusion that the workers are. The long and the short of it is, I think we think that. We're probably going to be into this for about $100,000 by the time it's done. Maybe less, maybe more, but based on what we already know and what the weekly labor, they're not working on the weekends. Weekly labor based on the quote is about $14,000 for their workers. They have 5 workers there on site. Those 5 workers are working for a total of 3 companies. So it's hard to calculate exactly how much is going to be incurred, but there's a lot more work to do, and there's no way our $40,000 or $60,000 is going to be adequate. So I did some more math and kind of came to the conclusion that we're in the neighborhood of $80,000 that we're going to owe Eustis for the work that they do. Ellie's suggestion was, let's do one and done here. So I think what I'd like to do is I'm going to make a motion that we approve Maple Broadband to authorize up to $100,000 for the construction work associated with Old Town Road conduits. Is there a second? Okay. And again, I think and Ellie had agreed with that $100,000 number. We're continuing to track it. We have JSI, again, our engineering firm. They visit the site every day and provide status reports. So you're going to see more pins dropped to show how the progress goes. So we've got a pretty good eye on what's going on there. And I think the reality of this is it is just impossible to imagine what it would look like if we had to do this ourselves. This is way something that not going to, we couldn't do inexpensively. Part of what's going on is once in a while the trenching machine runs into a boulder, and rather than try to cut through that whole boulder, they bring an excavator up and roll the boulder out of the way so that they can keep going. So it's not pretty, but I think from my perspective, if we want to serve Ripton, and this is the only way to get up to Ripton, this is, we're kind of over a barrel here. So that's the reason for my motion. We do have a second discussion.
Yeah, I have a question about that. Would it actually fall under construction, or is this considered pre-construction preparation? Because it's the running of the conduit, not actually the cabling, correct?
This is
pre-construction. Well, maybe you can talk about that, Ellie, but we have a lot of pre-construction funds, but that's not, I see this as construction. What do you think, Ellie?
Yeah, so there was the original delineation between pre-construction and construction came from Act 71 of 2021 Zapata, and so there was different amounts of money put into those different programs, different allocations for the CUDs, but basically pre-construction was for anything and everything up to and including breaking ground and actually doing stuff in the field. But they also allowed make-ready to be paid for under pre-construction, which is kind of an exception because I would typically consider make-ready to be a construction activity. So we've been widely using that because we do have a lot of pre-construction money left because we have relatively low overheads. And yeah, but yes, the plan is to pay for this out of our town ARPA funding. And then this is a portion. So this is a portion of this would be payable under the BEAD grant, except for the fact that we don't have BEAD yet, and also permitting, which is actually the next part of this conversation. So we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say an open meeting. I think that Ellie had stated in an email response when we were first kicking this around that we've got at a super high levels of ARPA funds in the amount of about $750,000. The line extensions that we're doing this year are about $250,000. That leaves us $500,000. We just think we're going to have to drop $100,000, give or take, for the Ripton work. And then we also took a look at the you just approved, tentatively approved high level or detailed design for BEAD work. So we have funds available to us. We're not running in the negative here, so that's the good news.
And that design would come out of pre-construction.
Okay. And I mean, to be quite honest, I think that this is an appropriate use or allocation of town ARPA monies, especially for Ripton, because like you said, Steve, this is the only way that we could actually get the service to Ripton to begin with.
Correct. Yeah, and we can tell them with a straight face that their ARPA contribution plus the match, it was going to fund the way they were getting to them.
Absolutely. Okay, great. Then no further discussion.
Anything else?
I have one kind of unrelated question for you, Steve, but what does the road look like after they go over it? Are they bringing any gravel in or anything else, or are they just they're smoothing it over and leaving it as is?
Yeah, Alan, I think the one thing that has me really troubled is I know there's long been a desire to make this as a alternate route out of Ripton. And the trenching machine we were looking at, that's running right down the middle of the road. And the road is probably about 15 feet wide. And then on the one side of the road, it's almost cliff, goes straight downhill. And on the other side of the road, it goes straight uphill. And then we also have to, along somewhere in that infrastructure, we also have to place a bunch of pull boxes. So the one thing that troubles me is that we may make it even more difficult to ever put a roadbed down there.
So, wasn't our choice where the trenching was going to happen.
Yeah.
Guys, we have 11 minutes left and quite a bit more to cover. So, is there anything? We have a motion second on the floor. Is that right? Okay.
All in favor of approving that? Raise your hand or say aye. Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. Real quick on permitting, to Ellie's point, we're running out of time here. There's probably maybe 2 or 3 permits that are involved in this. The work that's happening right now is facilitated through a permit that Green Mountain Power got. We believe that when we come back in the spring to pull cable through that, we believe that we can use the Green Mountain Power permit to do construction, but we believe we won't be able to turn on the network without a different permit. Something's called a special use authorization, and
Is
then
that through-
also
Is that through the U.S. Forest Service?
Oh, yes.
Yep.
USDA Forest Service, yeah.
Yep.
And they list in this with the handout that Ellie and I got that there's temporary permit, and a term permit. We have to sort that out. What they're suggesting is a pre-meeting with the USDA or the specialist there to figure out what needs to be done, because there's also NEPA going to be involved in it. And to Ellie's point, we're not done. Once we're done with Old Town Road, we're going to be building out in Ripton, and we're going to need to do work in the Green Mountain National Forest. And so this is all of a piece. I think we just have to figure out what needs to be done. And I know Ellie has already attempted to arrange a meeting with the authorities. I think for me, the key is, what do we need to do everything we need to do? Like, for example, we think that we're going to need to, every time we send a machine up onto Old Town Road to pull cable, we're probably going to need to get that machine inspected. We don't know that yet, though, and so that's all what we got to figure out. The good news is, even without a lot of these challenges, I don't think Ellie and I think we would have ever turned on Ripton until the end of next year. So we got time. It's okay.
Yeah. So in relation to that, we need to get a permit, and my inclination is to have a conversation, as exactly as Steve said, around the totality of all the permits, so that we're not getting a permit just for this and then going back and getting another permit later for other bead work, but that we actually sit down, discuss the high-level design of everything we're planning to do, and submit a single permit application for everything. If you have a different view, Zapata, we can maybe talk about it.
No, I don't. Actually, I'm in the process of reviewing TDI or New England, whatever transmission line, and they're looking at a complete comprehensive project. We do the same things with like water systems in municipalities. We're looking at the full comprehensive project, which gets captured underneath that one permit for whatever programs are being triggered for the different components. So NEPA and Army Corps would be looking at all of that. With regards to Old Town Road, GMP would have already done that for what the work that they're doing right now, because there is ground disturbance. Right. So I don't think we would have to be getting a separate NEPA for the work that we're doing, unless we have separate ground disturbance outside of the defined limits of disturbance as authorized by their current permit. But then moving beyond their right of way is what we would be picking up. So yes, you would basically be creating this massive spider web of where you're anticipating your work to go based on whatever information you've got, and then bringing it in. And U.S. Forest Service would only be looking at the portions of it that would overlap any U.S. Forest Service lands, while the rest of it within the municipalities would be captured underneath other permitting schemes.
Yep. So anyway, long story short, we have some permitting work to do here. I would love to chat with you, Zapata, offline and see if you might be able to be available to have this pre-virtual meeting with the person over there. And Steve, if you want to attend too, you can, but totally up to you.
Yeah, that's fine. Are you going to be meeting with Chris Smith?
No, her name is Jen Edmonds.
Yep, I've worked with her once before.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Ellie, I would recommend you don't include Zapata, and the reason I say that is that we're on our own. We can't trust that Zapata can drop everything and help us. So I think we really need to become experts on this without her assistance, in my opinion.
Well, if it's just a simple matter of having an extra set of ears to the information, to just, I'll say, review if there's an initial question, that might be helpful. Yes, I mean, you're certainly going to need to be working through the actual permitting process on your own. So that's totally up to you and your comfort level of that initial conversation of having more than one set of ears hearing the same information.
No, I'm fine with that. I mean, it's not like I'm a neophyte at permitting. Obviously, there's going to be specific things to this one, but it would be good to be able to pass things by you as another set of eyes. Okay. So I'm going to move on because we've got 5 minutes left. I want to cover the rest of these updates quickly. So that was really an FYI. Finance Committee, I covered that earlier, meeting again next week, Tuesday, and met previously to have a couple of comments on the draft audits. So that's what's going on there. We know what they're doing. Bead and affordable long drop, I have no updates other than what Steve?
I really have one question about affordable long drop, and I think I kind of pitched this to you a couple of times. I'm not sure I understand. It seems, or it sounds to me like you expect to insert Maple Broadband into the transaction between the property owner and the conduit company. Is that what your intention is? Yeah, I think that's probably a bad idea. So we'll talk about it more, but suddenly we got to get a lawyer involved. Suddenly there's more complexity. It's going to create risk. So my pitch initially, when I've suggested it to you, is we reimburse the property owner for the bill for the appropriate amount for the work that the conduit contractor is doing. That's the only way we're not going to get dragged into issues when the property owner has problems with the work that was done by the contractor. So we ought to talk more about that.
We definitely need to talk more about it because we need to be in that loop under BEAD. That it's a requirement that we create that conduit all the way to the house in order to. So I figure we may as well cross that bridge sooner than later. But you're absolutely right. We need to talk through the details of that.
The affordable long drop program is what you were talking about. This BEAD is not part of the affordable long drop program, is it?
No, it isn't. But BEAD has a requirement that customers not be charged anything above and beyond the standard installation fee, and that they not be required to disturb the ground of their property in order to get the installation.
So as it relates to affordable long drop, there is liability there we need to talk about.
Yeah, so I think it's a good point. We should discuss this in more detail and also inform ourselves about what's.
Yeah, let's put it into the next meeting agenda.
Yep, I think that's the best way to handle it. Okay, 2025 construction updates. We had a handful, something about 20 addresses that went live a couple of days ago, which is exciting as line extensions. There's more to come, but we had our first service activation this year. We're not marketing it on social media because it's like, a couple of houses here and a couple of houses here and, filling in the Swiss cheese hole. So it's not like a big thing that we can trumpet, but wanted to make sure you guys were aware of that. And
how are the people in the holes aware, Ellie?
They're aware. The people who have registered for service are aware, and the ones who haven't registered for service, they'll now get the same response as areas that have been in service for ages now.
So they'll tack on the same advertising that you're doing for everybody else. Is that what you're saying?
Yep,
Okay.
They'll no longer get a sorry, we can't provide service to you. But the ones who registered in those areas, we've been sending them multiple emails to get them to add products if they haven't already, and if they have, then Waitsfield is proceeding with the drop and trying to schedule the installation. Okay, so the parking lot, you will notice there's a new addition to the parking lot. I added the Green Mountain National Forest permitting to the bottom of that, so we can continue to track that. And I have no other business other than as the final item here, I want to discuss Shannon, go ahead.
I just wanted to let you know that under the parking lot, Cy and I are going to take back the draft personnel policy and try to reconcile with like what the current benefits are and those kinds of things, so that can come off your plate, and we'll take care of that.
Shannon, did you see Cy's response? I don't think you were copied on it. When I sent her the draft that you provided, she did give me some comments. Did you see those?
I didn't necessarily see those, but she and I have been communicating, so we're going to schedule some time offline where we can go through and get everything in line.
Perfect. I'll forward on Cy's comments just to help contribute to it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anything else on the parking lot? Okay. So the next thing is our next executive committee meeting is scheduled for the second Monday, which is the 13th of October. And that is that's the day before the governing board meeting on the 14th of October. And so if we don't meet between now and then, you guys will not have a chance to review the draft budget, pro forma, and annual report before it goes to the governing board. So I am open if you guys want to reschedule, or if you don't, happy either way, but I want to call your attention to it.
I won't be able to attend on the 13th.
So let's try to meet on the 6th.
I would not be able to meet on the 6th, although Thursday, the 9th in the afternoon, I would be. And I know that that worked fairly well for most people on the board.
Yep, it did. And if Adam's not available, I can go through to the ACRPC.
Thursday, the 9th.
So, can you summarize where we are now? I'm kind of confused.
We're looking at Thursday,
We're looking at
October
Thursday
9th.
the 9th instead of Monday the 13th.
Yep.
We would
Right now,
cancel
I can
Monday
do
the
it, Ellie.
13th. Sorry, Adam?
I said I can do the 9th right now.
Oh, good.
So it sounds like that works. And it did generally work for Cy. So I'm going to go ahead and reschedule the meeting that's currently October 13th to October 9th. And then you guys will get the draft materials as part of your pack for that. And probably sooner than you get the agenda, because I'll probably send them out soon after the finance committee's had to look at them early next week. At least the financials. I'm not sure. I need to speak to London Middlebury with the draft of the annual report. But we have a meeting tomorrow. Okay, that's it. So sorry we're a couple minutes over, but I think we can adjourn. Good discussion today and some items we can take into the next meeting.
And Ellie, if you want to stay online, you can teach me how I'm supposed to be logging in, where I'm supposed to go, and checking my email.
Sure thing. Let me stop the recording. Thank you all. Have a good afternoon.
Yep.
Bye-bye.